To understand the great Ottoman Empire, we must first understand the man who dreamed it into existence. This is the story of his early days, a vision that changed history, and the character that defined a dynasty. The new chief, after the death of his heroic father, Ertugrul Ghazi, the responsibility of leadership fell upon Osman's shoulders. He was chosen as the new chief of the Kayi tribe. The tribe now looked to him for guidance, protection, and a future. Unlike many rulers, Osman was not hungry for power or wealth. He was a man of deep faith and simple habits. His lifestyle was plain, without any show of riches. He believed that a true leader should live among his people, not above them. The man of justice, what truly made Osman Ghazi extraordinary was his unwavering sense of justice. He was famously fair to everyone, whether they were Muslim or Christian. He believed in protecting the weak poor. He had a unique rule for the spoils of war. After any battle, all the wealth and possessions captured were collected. From this, a share was first set aside for the orphans, the needy. Only then was the rest distributed among his soldiers. This policy made him immensely popular and loved by the common people. His fame as a just and compassionate leader began to spread far and wide. The prophetic dream one night, while staying as a guest at the home of his spiritual teacher, Sheikh Edebali, Osman had a powerful and vivid dream. In this dream, he saw a magnificent moon rise from the chest of the wise sheikh. This moon then moved across the sky and sank deep into Osman's own chest. Immediately, a great tree began to grow from his chest. Its roots spread deep and wide, and its branches stretched out to cover the entire world. Beneath the shade of this enormous tree stood mighty mountains, and rivers flowed from their bases. People from all corners of the world came to live peacefully under its shadow. When he woke up, Osman was deeply moved. He immediately went to Sheikh Edebali and told him every detail of the dream. The interpretation, Sheikh Edebali listened carefully. Then, with a smile, he explained its meaning. He said, "My son, God has given you and your descendants a great sign. The moon that entered your chest means that my daughter, Bala Hatun, will become your wife. The great tree that grew from you is the vast empire that will be established by your lineage. This empire will spread across the world, bringing peace and justice to its people. Your children will rule over the earth, and Islam will be honored under their protection. The union and the future, this dream was a turning point." Soon after, Osman Ghazi married Sheikh Edebali's daughter, Bala Hatun. This was not just a marriage between two people. It was a union that connected political leadership with spiritual wisdom. The dream became the founding myth of the Ottoman Empire. It gave Osman Ghazi a divine purpose, and a vision that was much larger than just leading a small tribe. It was a vision of a world empire, built on the principles of justice, faith, and compassion that he already embodied. This vision would guide his every decision and fuel the rise of one of history's most powerful dynasties. A dream was not enough to build an empire. It required action, courage, and clever strategy. This is the story of how Osman Ghazi turned his vision into reality, taking his first decisive steps from a tribal leader to a sovereign ruler. The spark of independence for years, the Kayi tribe served as a loyal frontier force for the Seljuk Sultanate. But as the Seljuk Empire began to weaken, Osman Ghazi saw an opportunity to establish his own independent state. He stopped sending taxes to the Sultan, a bold declaration of his sovereignty. He was no longer just a bey or frontier lord, he was now a ruler in his own right. The first major victory. Karacahisar Castle. Osman's first significant military target was the Byzantine castle of Karacahisar. This fortress was a symbol of Christian power right at his doorstep. Osman did not just rely on brute force. He used a brilliant tactic. He laid a siege to the castle, cutting off its supplies. Then, he set a trap. He pretended to retreat, luring the castle's garrison out into the open. As the Byzantine soldiers chased what they thought was a fleeing army, Osman's main force ambushed them. The castle was captured in 28. This victory was monumental. The Seljuk Sultan, though weakened, formally granted Osman the rights to rule Karacahisar. More importantly, Osman transformed the main church inside the castle into a mosque, and the Friday sermon, the khutbah, was read in his name. This was the ultimate sign of his independent political authority. The wedding trap and the fall of Bilecik. Yarhisar and Ertugrul. With his power growing, Osman set his sights on three key fortresses: Bilecik, Yarhisar, and Ertugrul. Their rulers, especially the governor of Bilecik, grew fearful of Osman's rise. They devised a cunning plan. The governor of Bilecik invited Osman Ghazi to a grand wedding ceremony, pretending friendship, but it was a trap. Their real plan was to murder Osman and his men while they were unarmed and celebrating. However, Osman had a secret ally, Mihal. Mihal was the governor of a neighboring castle and a close friend of Osman. He secretly warned Osman about the deadly plot. Instead of falling into the trap, Osman Ghazi created a counterplan of pure genius. Step 1. He sent a group of his best soldiers, disguised as women bringing wedding gifts, into the castle of Bilecik. These women carried baskets, but hidden inside were weapons. Step 2. Another group of his men were hidden in large barrels that were supposedly carrying honey and oil as presents for the wedding. Step 3. As the wedding festivities began and the Byzantine guards let their guard down, Osman gave the signal. His soldiers emerged from their disguises in the barrels, seizing control of Bilecik castle from the inside. Simultaneously, Osman himself led an attack on Yarhisar, capturing it as well. The ruler of Ertugrul was killed in the fighting. With one masterstroke, Osman Ghazi had secured 3 crucial fortresses. The significance of these victories, these early conquests, were not just about gaining land. They demonstrated Os's unique style of leadership. Military genius. He preferred clever strategy and ambushes over costly direct assaults. Loyalty and alliances. His friendship with Mihal proved invaluable. This trust was later rewarded when Mihal converted to Islam and became one of Osman's most trusted commanders, known as Adullah. A new kind of state. By reading the khutbah in his name and establishing his own rule of law, Osman was no longer a tribal chief. He was the founder of a state, the Ottoman Bilecik, which would soon become an empire. These first conquests sent a clear message to both friends and foes. A new power had risen in Anatolia, led by a man who was as wise as he was brave. After securing his smaller neighbors, Osman Ghazi set his sights on the ultimate prize in the region, the magnificent city of Bursa. This was not just another castle, it was a major metropolitan center, a symbol of Byzantine power in Anatolia, and the key to controlling the entire region. Capturing Bursa would transform his budding state into a true kingdom. The imposing fortress Bursa was a formidable target. Perched on the slopes of Mount Uludut, it was a natural fortress. Its high walls were legendary, and its gates were heavily fortified. A direct assault was impossible. It would have been a suicide mission for Osman's army. He knew that to take Bursa, he would need not just force, but immense patience and a brilliant strategy. The strategy of strangulation. Osman Ghazi devised a masterful long-term plan. He would not storm the city, he would suffocate it. Step 1. Isolate the city. Instead of attacking Bursa itself, Osman's forces first captured all the towns, villages, and smaller forts in the surrounding countryside. Places like Kestel and Kit fortresses fell to the Ottomans. This cut off Bursa from its hinterland, its sources of food, and its communication lines with other Byzantine territories. Step 2. The blockade. Once the city was isolated, Osman ordered the construction of 2 new fortresses close to Bursa. These forts acted as permanent bases for his troops, allowing them to enforce a tight blockade. No supply caravan could enter, and no soldier could leave. The goal was to wait until the city's will and resources broke. A siege of a decade. The Siege of Bursa was not a single battle, but a war of attrition that dragged on for nearly 10 years. Life inside the city became increasingly desperate. Food supplies dwindled, morale sank, and the people lived under constant shadow of hunger and fear. During this long period, Osman Ghazi grew old. The burden of leadership and continuous warfare took its toll. He began to delegate more responsibility to his capable and brave son, Orhan Ghazi. The final push and the fall of the city. Recognizing that his father's dream was within reach, Orhan Ghazi took command of the final operation. He intensified the pressure on the city. Seeing that resistance was futile and to avoid the total destruction of his city, the Byzantine governor of Bursa finally agreed to negotiate a surrender. In April 1026, the gates of the great city of Bursa were opened. In a remarkable display of chivalry, Orhan Ghazi ensured the safe passage of the Byzantine governor and his family out of the city. There was no massacre, no brutal pillaging. The city was taken with order and dignity. A bitter, sweet victory. The glorious news of this historic victory was carried swiftly to Osman Ghazi. But the founder of the empire was now on his deathbed in the city of Sut, too weak to even rise. When his son Orhan's messenger arrived with the news, saying, "Bursa is yours," the old Ghazi was overcome with emotion. He had achieved his life's goal. With his final breaths, Osman Ghazi gave his last commands. He said, "My son, treat the people of Bursa with kindness and justice. Honor their faith and their churches. Be a just ruler." His final wish was to be laid to rest in the city he had worked so hard to conquer. The new capital, following his father's will, Orhan Ghazi had Osman's body carried to Bursa and buried in a silver domed tomb. Osman's simple wish transformed Bursa from a conquered Byzantine city into the sacred first capital of the Ottoman Empire. The capture of Bursa was more than a military victory. It was the moment the Ottoman Bilecik was truly born as an empire. It provided a powerful economic base, a strategic capital, and a spiritual heart for the state that would grow to span 3 continents. Conquests and kingdoms are built with swords and strategy, but they are sustained by the character of their founders. The true greatness of Osman lies not just in the empire he built, but in the timeless principles he lived by. Principles of justice, simplicity, and faith that became the soul of the Ottoman Empire for 6 centuries. The just ruler, perhaps Osman Ghazi's most defining trait, was his unwavering commitment to justice. In an age of brutality, he was a beacon of fairness. He famously declared that his duty was to protect the flock from the wolf, meaning he saw himself as the shepherd of all his people, regardless of their faith. Non-Muslims under his rule were not persecuted or forced to convert. They were granted protection, known as dhimmi status, and were allowed to practice their religion freely. They only paid a small tax for this military protection. This policy of tolerance was revolutionary. When people saw that Osman's justice was blind to religion, they welcomed his rule. Entire Christian villages sometimes voluntarily submitted to his authority, knowing they would be treated more fairly by him than by their own Byzantine lords. The humble Ghazi, despite his growing power, Osman Ghazi lived a life of remarkable simplicity. He was a Ghazi, a warrior for the faith, and his life directed that spiritual purpose. He shunned luxury and royal pomp. There is a powerful story that after his death, when people looked for his personal treasures, they found none. He did not hoard gold or jewels. His entire worldly possessions consisted of a simple woolen cloak, a set of horse armor, a salt shaker, a wooden spoon, a few pairs of boots. Some herds of horses and feasts was the imperial treasure of the man who founded an empire. He believed that true wealth was in the hereafter, and his simple life was a testament to that belief. A legacy of faith and fairness. Ghazi's greatest legacy was the culture of administration he established. He created a system that was both strong and flexible, built on a core set of principles: religious tolerance. This allowed for the stable integration of diverse peoples into the empire. Meritocracy. He rewarded talent and loyalty, not just noble birth. This is why a Byzantine lord like Kayi could become one of his most trusted commanders. The spirit of Gaza. He infused his state with a unifying mission: to spread Islam and protect the faithful. This Ghazi spirit attracted thousands of skilled and motivated warriors from across the Muslim world. The final advice in passing as he lay dying, Osman Ghazi summoned his son, Orhan, and his closest advisors. His final words were not about expanding borders or accumulating wealth. They were a moral will, a blueprint for righteous rule. He said, "My son, be respectful of the religious scholars. Add to your strength and power by giving close attention to the religious law. Work for the religion of God. Protect your subjects from oppression. Do not accept deeds of which you do not know the end. Follow the path of justice and fairness." With these words, the founder passed away in 1326, leaving behind not just a small state but an idea. The idea of a state built on divine favor, human justice, and eternal struggle for a higher cause. Conclusion. The dream fulfilled. The sapling of the great tree from his dream had taken root. Osman Ghazi became the father of emperors. The empire he founded would grow to touch the skies of Vienna, the deserts of Arabia, and the coasts of Africa. But at its heart, for all its grandeur and power, it always carried the simple, powerful legacy of its founder: a legacy of justice, a cloak of simplicity, and a spoon that fed the poor. The empire was mighty because its foundation was not built on stone, but on virtue.